And we're back. Hey, Sterling, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. We are back with another edition of
Behind the News.
Behind the News. In this past issue of the Newberry News, you had a couple of articles. One had to do with the our new owners of the, it used to be formerly the Bear Den.
Yes, it's now Kisro's Lakeside Market. It's owned by Dennis and Janie Kisro. They had their grand opening, I think it was last weekend. It was on a Friday. They had their grand opening. And I went out and interviewed Janie the day before the grand opening for the article. And she was telling me some of the things that they're going to do or change in the store. One thing she said, and it might be a month out or so, but they're going to offer like roasted chicken.
Really?
And like different deli meats and salads. They're going to continue the sub sandwiches that the store has sold for years and have donuts and stuff. But she said they wanted to add the chicken.
Okay. That's great.
Deli chicken. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they also bought some coolers or freezers, so they have frozen pizzas and frozen food on the one wall of the store. They have the freezers installed. And then when you went into the store, the entranceway kind of had like we went in one door and then there was another door where they took that all out and rebuilt the entrance of the store. And then when you first walk in, there's a little area called Sugared Up, and it's actually a little bakery that Janie's mother and her sister are operating.
Oh, okay.
So that's a nice new feature to the business, and they're still going to offer gas and everything like they normally do. But they said that a long-term goal is they would like to just rebuild the entire building.
Really?
But right now they want to make sure everything's safe for their customers, and they've added quite a bit to their grocery selection because they realize that there's some older customers that might not be able to get to town once a week or so. And they want to make sure they have everything so their older customers, they don't run out of things between their trips to Newberry for groceries. So, yeah, it was an interesting visit, and I'm glad that they've got everything up and running there.
That's great. That's great. Now, switching gears completely, last week you attended the meeting up in Pentland.
Well, one of the things that they talked about, and I know that they had worked with an engineer for preliminary drawings for a sewer lagoon system. With the ongoing litigation with the village, I think that ultimately they wanted to have a sewer lagoon system for their customers that don't have drain fields and that type of thing, the ones that are on the sewer system. So they want to have a sewer lagoon. So they're actually now, they were talking about some potential areas where they could build the sewer lagoon. One of them was off of Hamilton Lake Road, and then the other area that they discussed was on the other side of the current industrial park.
These two sites that they're looking at, do you know if are there houses and things around the area?
They had a map that showed, it was in their packet, their meeting packet, like a map that showed some of the potential areas, but I don't believe it would be like right by a house or something.
Okay.
It'd be off of probably a parcel but they'll have to contact the property owners.
I'll tell you this, you don't want to live downwind from a place like that. I grew up, and there was a lagoon system 2 or 3 miles away, and when the wind blew a certain direction, the smell, people, if there's people around the area, they'll have to get used to that.
Yeah. So that was an interesting part of the meeting, and then they also talked about their ongoing litigation with the village, and that the next hearing is not until April, and that they believe that would be the last hearing before the trial.
Okay.
For the ongoing litigation between the township and the village of Newberry.
So there's a chance that they'll get this all resolved before you and I pass.
There's a chance.
I hope that both parties can come to an agreement really soon. I really do. Put that behind and move forward. Front page this past week we had a story about the internet issues at Three Lakes Academy in Curtis, and have good news to report. After that story was written, I took it and then shared it with other media outlets, TV stations downstate, even shared it with the governor's office. And within 24 hours, we started getting responses from people. One of the issues that we had, I'm on the school board down there, so I'm a little familiar with the situation. It was just a lack of urgency to get this resolved. It's nice now that within 24 hours of that piece going to print and then showing up on our website, it's been solved. It's been fixed. A number of people came along, and there's now that sense of urgency to get this thing resolved. Kids, you couldn't use the internet in schools.
Right.
And it's something how without the internet, so many things when it comes to educating kids, the internet now is an important tool to have in a school. And for 2.5 months, report cards were delayed. All state testing now is done through the internet. That was in jeopardy of being done. Even little things like school security. The principal has the ability to lock the doors remotely, but if you don't have internet access, that doesn't happen. So anyway, follow up to that piece will be coming in the news here in the next couple of weeks. But it's nice to know that I won't say it's 100% resolved. We won't know until the next couple of days. But at least they had someone from Chicago come up to address it and to look into it. So hopefully that has all been resolved and fixed. So any other little thing?
I went down to the snowmobile show down in Auburn.
How'd that go?
It was really enjoyable. Went down there on Saturday, and they had it was kind of cool to pull into Nobbin and both sides of the streets of the downtown area had all these snowmobiles. And I know that my grandfather was a very avid snowmobile fan. In fact, he started a snowmobile club downstate, the grooming organization. He worked with the DNR, and he was a groomer until the age of 84. But anyway, I saw some snowmobiles that the type that he had back in the 50s and 60s, the type that my mother and her sister grew up on. So it's really cool to see all the old sleds down there, and there were a lot of people.
Well, they just got snow like a day or two before, right?
Yeah,
so they had fresh snow to ride on.
Yeah, it was nice to go down there and see all the people enjoying those old snowmobiles, and even the snowmobile museum. It's cool to go and walk through there, and of course my favorite is they have a Model T in there with the snowmobile with the blades on, with the skis on the front and the tracks on the back. Axles. So it's really interesting to go down and go through that museum, but it was just really cool to go and pull into Nobbin, go around the curve there, and there's all those snowmobiles lined up. It was really interesting.
That's great. And if you've not been to the snowmobile museum, I would encourage people to go check it out.
Oh yeah, it's worth it. It's well worth it.
Me not knowing anything about snowmobiles, you go into that place and you see all these vintage snowmobiles. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, there was one. There were several of the same model, but one of those old yellow ski-doos from the 50s and 60s, and I have pictures of my mom riding one and it actually they could put tires or wheels on the front of it for like in the fall or whatever. So it was just interesting to go down there and see all the old sleds and the types of stuff that my family used back in the day. And
cool. So what are some of the things you're working on for this upcoming issue?
We will be covering the village of Newberry, and so I covered the village, and that'll be in next week's paper.
Okay.
And then Pentland Township is Monday night. I'm anxious to go to that and see if there's any updates on the lobbyists that they hired for the 407 410 project. So maybe a historical piece might be in next week's paper too. So
awesome.
Lots of stuff coming up.
All right. We look forward to seeing what you have. again, want to thank everyone for spending a little time with us, and we will do our best to be back again next week.